policy resources since the new year, so wishing everybody a good, happy and prosperous new year. The main business, the item we're dealing with today is the Scrutiny Administration's 3-year budget proposal. I'd also like to welcome Gavin Maxwell, who is shadowing Derek. Good luck with that. And Gavin's a modern apprentice in health and safety, so welcome, Gavin. Sederunt, apologies.
Thank you, Leader. 16 members present. I have apologies from Councillor Diggle, Councillor Dykes and Councillor Gilroy.
Councillor Collins has got another appointment. He'll be here as soon as he can.
Thank you.
Okay, do any members have a declaration of interest? No? Can't be any houses today. Move on to item 3. The administration submitted a budget to full council on the 18th of December 2014. The budget proposal is being scrutinised through the service committees, and so far it's been considered by the EEI committee as well as through local area committee meetings in Albeit and Stranraer. As well as scheduled service committee area committees are due to take place in Dumfries tonight and Annan tomorrow night. And look forward to hearing, listening and to the views coming from these committee meetings. In terms of today's report, it's asking members to scrutinise those details of the administration budget proposals for revenue spending and capital spending that relate to the Chief Executive Service. Appendix 3 provides members with details of the 3 savings option templates. That's the Dumfries Asset Plan, Foreman Evaluation Joint Board, the Scottish Borders, and the third one, management savings from the reshape of the Council. In terms of the Council's capital investment strategy, I'm pleased that our arrangements have aligned the revenue and capital budget planning. Appendix 4 provides members with a summary of the proposed 10-year capital investment strategy. It also includes the 4 templates for the capital investment proposals that relate to the Chief Executive Service, which are the South of Scotland Next Generation Access Broadband, the Property Buildings Non-Schools, Land, the third one, and the Information Technology Business Systems. I'll open up the meeting for member debate. Now, what I suggest doing is if we go each template just quickly through, ask if there's any questions. If we go to, sorry. Well,
it was just if you're ready to go to the templates, I had a question on the first one, or a couple of points. This Dumfries asset plan. Now,
this is page 9 for everybody.
Yeah. This has had the sort of gestation period of an elephant, I think, if not longer, because we've had meetings, I think, possibly for the last 4 years, bringing this forward, and it's not. Are we confident that it will be achieved by the August date to let us bring forward the bulk of the savings in the future years? And the other one I'd like a wee bit of clarification on. By year 3 we have £335,000 worth of savings. Now, I take it this asset plan will link to the capital expenditure that we'll have later on. Now, we've got something like £5 million that is there in the capital spend to address this. My understanding is the revenue consequences of £1 million, 70,000. 5 times 70,000 is 350,000, and the savings are 335. So it's actually going to cost us more rather than be a saving. Could I have maybe clarification on that, please?
Please.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to the first question that Councillor Stokes raised, yes, we do have confidence that we're going to be able to make those savings. We've been relatively cautious with what we've applied, which I think you can see at the top of page 10. There's a description there that we've applied quite a degree of caution to what we can achieve. So hopefully, ultimately, the savings will be great. In relation to the savings and the link to capital investment, yes, there is provision within the capital budget for investment. The amounts that are there will need to be finalised once the options appraisal is complete, and it's quite possible that there might be spend to save elements that will arise out of it as well. So the links aren't completely made yet. We're just in the earliest stages of making the figures all stack up and work, but we've got a degree of confidence from the background work that we've done that they will work, and we've applied that degree of caution to it as well.
Ronnie?
Thanks, Chair. Just to follow on from what Ivor said there, spotted that. I just want to go one step further. I heard what you said about the Dumfries one, but could that same principle be applied across the region to try and identify further savings?
Yes, we're starting with Dumfries because that's where the biggest savings will be made, and it will also be a model to be followed elsewhere. But we will, and indeed we are, trying to pull forward similar savings in other areas. For instance, we're trying to do some work at Ashwood House and Stranraer to move as many people as possible in there from the likes of Ilsa House, for instance. But it's important to make sure that in doing that, we've got the investment in the long term to make sure that it's a sustainable facility. And we will, as opportunities come up and are identified that we see will work, we'll bring those forward as quickly as we can. So there may be other savings that are achievable on top of this in other areas.
Jane?
Thanks very much. I have to very gently take issue, actually, about starting in Dumfries. We didn't. We started, I remember, we started in the Stewardship on this removal of offices and workstations. I remember Councillor McBurney coming down and admiring what we had done in Castle Douglas. I'm with Ivor on this. It's really been terribly slow, and I don't know what's actually going to particularly drive it, apart from the fact we've put down some savings which are finally going to be made, we hope. Can I have a comment about an issue which we have raised with the unit attempting to get more green issues and energy savings? We have been told that we are unable to really drive that particular programme forward, Leader, until this project is actually achieved. Can we have any sort of comment about the fact that we are unable at the moment, for argument's sake, to put more solar panels and other such things on council assets until we get this thing properly pushed forward? Have you got a plan to do particular offices which have the maximum capacity and propensity to be able to take energy-saving items on them?
That will certainly be factored in to what we're doing. That's an integral part of what we'll look at, because we want to make sure that we've got the most energy-efficient buildings. Clearly, we've got a stock that includes quite a lot of listed and historic buildings, but also we've got buildings where, as well as putting in the likes of solar panels, for instance, we need to look at things like the thermal efficiency of the building envelope as well, because putting in a renewable installation doesn't achieve its maximum effects if there isn't a fundamentally sound building fabric, insulation that will retain heat and so on. But all those things will be factored into what we're looking at. If we went and put things on buildings now, we'd potentially be doing two things, potentially investing in the wrong places before we've done the work that we need to do that we're doing just now in terms of understanding the use and therefore seeing which buildings would we retain. And the other thing that we'd potentially be doing is carrying out one piece of work when all work that we need to do to a premises to make the most out of the money, if we're able to do it all at once. Sometimes phasing does have to happen, but the ideal is to make sure that as much work is carried out at once, particularly if there might be decants of premises involved to do work. We wouldn't want to be decanting more than one time to get something done and make sure that it's sustainable for the long term in every aspect.
Thank you. Alistair?
Because she's simply saying
Thanks very much indeed, Leader.
Sorry, Jane, could you switch your mic off,
Sorry,
please?
beg pardon.
Could you switch your mic off, please?
Thanks very much indeed, Leader. As far as I'm concerned, in conceptual terms, I have no problems whatsoever with these proposals. But like certain other speakers, I'm becoming increasingly concerned, sir, about what I perceive to be the lack of cohesion, the lack of dynamism in taking it forward and implementing it. Ivor started off by saying, you know, it's the gestation period of an elephant. Well, you know, I understand where he's coming from with that, but I think it's absolutely imperative that the outcomes from this process does not result in the birth of the proverbial mouse. We've got to effect these savings. We've got to push on and do the business. I've always signed up to the concept, Leader, of fewer and better assets. But certainly from a Wigtonshire perspective, I'm becoming increasingly concerned about the fact that we seem not to be driving this forward, as I've said, with the cohesion and the dynamism that some of us would be looking for. I'll leave it at that, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Thanks, Leader. Quite understandably, it is planned to reduce the number of workstations per employee. Has this been assessed in relation to the total number of employees rather than simply full-time equivalent employees?
Yes, and not only that, but we're looking in great detail at how spaces are used, how workstations are used at the moment. Clearly, there's a whole different range of how people work. A lot of people are based at a desk for 36 hours per week, with little movement to other offices or other locations or so forth. But there are equally people who are on the move a lot, quite often largely because of the numbers of buildings that we have, but often for other reasons as well. So we're physically monitoring that at the moment with some technology at, I think it's 7 premises between now and the end of March to fully understand that. That's kit that's been used elsewhere for similar circumstances with great success. And it also gives us something later on that we can use, for instance, for monitoring availability of hot desks under the arrangements that we're aiming to have in a couple of years' time. So we're looking at all different working patterns to fully understand it before we make any final decision in terms of the options and numbers of workstations that we'll need.
Okay, just a follow up on that again, Lee. Is that obviously, you know, it's not only property related, and Jim's saying about the staff and that, and there's obviously a cultural change in communication. How's it being communicated to staff across all the services, and how's?
We've got a number of different things happening. There's been sign-off by Strategic Asset Board, then there's been communication at the Corporate Business Support Group. Short Life Officer Working Group has been set up with a member of staff from each department and also specific people from IT and HR, because clearly those are two aspects that are absolutely fundamental to this working as much as property itself. That group is looking at sort of challenging and testing the data gathering work that we're doing, and also feeding in information about how people work, as well as communicating back with their own departments and being champions for the project. We also had a presentation that we ran in Cargan just before Christmas for people to come along and drop in and see what we're doing, what the project's about. We're aiming to do that in a couple of other locations over the next couple of months. And we're also looking to put a page on Connect with information about the project so that people know what's happening and know who to get in touch with if they've got specific questions.
Ollie?
Thanks, Ronnie. I'm looking at page 10 of the report, and it says details on staffing implications and how this will be managed. And it starts off by saying it is not anticipated this project will involve reduction in staffing. Then it goes on to say, however, it's possible that there could be a reduction in the number of cleaning staff. And I would like to think they were all part of the same corporate organisation, our cleaners. Indeed, for me, they play an important part in the council. But it goes on. It could be that there could be a reduction in that. Have we any idea? This is again the low-paid, part-time, predominantly female workers, some of whom almost rely on the small number of hours they already get, and we've still got public places, toilets, and everything else. Could we maybe have more detail in that as to what the impact and the effect is going to be?
Yeah, so I suppose if you're reducing the number of buildings for 17 to less buildings, then there'll be less need for that. But I'll let Lee's answer. Yep.
I don't have the specific detail on that because we don't know the premises that will reduce down to, and therefore what effect that would have. But what I can say from previous properties that we've closed and so on, obviously the policy is followed in terms of seeking redeployment and use of other facilities of the cleaning staff who would previously have worked in that building. That's really all that I could say on it, given that it's we're still at the early stages of figuring out what we're doing. We'll make sure that that's factored in and that the right communications and discussions happen with DG First colleagues in relation to the cleaning staff that work in the buildings and other employees too, of course.
Yeah, so I suppose that there's no compulsory redundancy policy anyway, so that's really.
Yeah, Chair, I take the point you're making, as we reduce the number of buildings, but, the cleaners are already, whether at one time they were employed on 5 evenings per week, 5 mornings, but whatever the case may be, I know from experience they're now down to, 3 and maybe even less. If we could have a report back on that, just to what the impact in is, if and when it's known, Chair, and how it can be, redundancies can be avoided.
There's staging reports come to P&R committee regular basis anyway. So. Okay. Right, move on to page 15. This is the management savings from Reshape. Sorry? Sorry, thanks for that. I missed that. It's a valuation joint board with the Scottish Borders. Thanks very much. Ivor?
Thank you, Leader. Just for my own clarification, because I was reading through this and we've got the narrative description of savings option is that we would need to employ 1 assessor and ERO to serve 2 valuation areas, but we'll go on then to talk about 2 posts. Just to square that off with me, and is there any capital cost? Because my recollection was we had a system which linked our assessors with our valuation role and our electoral role, whereas other areas had different computer systems. So is there any capital cost that we'll need to address to actually achieve these savings?
No, there shouldn't be any capital cost. We would have to look at rationalising computer systems across both Dumfries and Galloway and borders, but I'm hoping that would lead to savings rather than expenditure.
And the posts, it says 2 here, but only 1.
It's really just responding to requests for early retirement, and that we see the opportunity to reduce down by 2 posts. But we think we can only affect that with the move to a joint board to make up for the lack of staff.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. It's just really a follow-on from that one. We're going to reduce by 2 members of staff. How many staff do we have at the minute?
We've 25 at the moment.
And also, it says that there's going to be a joint assessor and electoral registration officer. Who will decide who that will be? Will it be a joint decision between the 2? In plain English, is this a takeover or is it a merger?
It is a merger, sorry, Ronnie. It is a merger of hopefully two equals, and I would expect the valuation joint board would make those decisions.
Okay, anybody else? Sorry, Jim's wanting back in. I'll let him in first again, Jane.
It's just to clarify, we expect that the joint board will make the decision. It'll not be a definite that the joint board will make the decision.
Sorry, it is a definite. The valuation joint board, when it's formed, will decide the composition of its staff.
Okay, Jane?
Well, it was just really, it's a question of issues and concerns regarding deliverability. I mean, how firm is this with Borders? Have they said they're going to do this?
It's not firm at all. They made the approach to us initially, and they have done over this last year or two. They now seem to be firm enough that they would like to progress with it. They've actually offered to provide a management consultant to do the feasibility. So it would only be after we got the result of the feasibility study that we would be able to come back to yourselves and ask if you would wish to proceed.
I'm just curious that we can strip 2 posts out of this service suddenly and have no effect. Can I have an explanation of how this can be?
I suppose it's the joint board.
Yeah, it's because the rationale is that the joint board would take on those extra responsibilities that I'm expecting that a joint board of perhaps a staff of 40 can deal with the workload across 2 valuation areas easier than 2 separate assessors' office. Because at the moment we have quite a bit of work with the Scottish Assessors Association, which I represent, but we have duplication by both our own office in Dumfries and Galloway and the Scottish Borders in Newton St Boswell's, both sending representatives to every meeting of the Scottish Assessors Association and any other meetings that are within industry bodies, for instance. And so I'm looking on the basis that that will be shrunk down so that there'll be less management required.
I mean, I suppose we're not reinventing the wheel here. Is there any other joint boards in, elsewhere in Scotland?
Yes, there's 10 joint boards in Scotland, and there's 4 what we call unitary assessors. There's myself, the Scottish Borders, Glasgow and Fife for the 4 unitary, and then there's 10 other joint boards serving multiple councils. I see it as the way forward really for, apart from trying to take the last element of savings out of my service, I see it as also sustainability for the future, to have a credible, sizable unit to be able to deliver both valuation and electoral registration services to you.
Okay. Willie?
Yeah, Chair, it's not so much a question on the specifics, but more on the general in terms of working with Scottish Borders or indeed any other authority. And I well remember the discussion and debate there was some years ago on procurement, and it was around the sharing of services, and indeed at that time we were looking at the printing services and others, where we could offer out our services. Some of the departments did take advantage indeed, or DG first, then went out on design of roads and so forth, offering the services there. So it may be something that could be in terms of exploration. I say so in as much as to try and protect frontline services that are delivered directly to the public, and there's no saying where you start and where you finish, from the top to the very bottom in that respect. So it may be something that's worthy of some further exploration rather than the specific, to look at the general, and when we do come to look at frontline services and the effect on the general public.
I'll look forward to any ideas at all, Willie. Thank you.
Almost could give you one now, Chair, but I'll hold it back.
Okay, moving on to page 15 this time. Yeah. Next, which is the management savings from the reshape. Ivor?
Thank you, Leader. It's just how, if someone could explain the tie-up between this management savings in here and management savings in other portfolios. You know, there's 300,000, I think, being identified in CCS. Are they being done in conjunction with each other? And we won't have a case where one might be fighting against the other because, well, actually, we took the post that we wanted to keep, or vice versa, just to see how that links together. And with some of these staffing moves, I think there was a programme, was it Switch it was called? Just wondering how that was progressing through the council just now.
Yeah, I think this will be done through the VS and the Switch programme and that. Yep.
Just on the first point, there is no double counting either in terms of this template and the templates from CCS, but we recognise that there's a risk there around that to make sure that we mitigate that. And part of that is about the governance arrangements around the delivery of the budget. There are savings obviously around potential education savings as well in staffing, but they're not counted here, so we've been very clear around that. In terms of the Switch programme, my understanding from the head of OD and HR is that he's been in discussion and negotiation with the trade unions at the moment to bring forward that policy in February.
Jane?
It's really a question of how this is being taken forward rather than whether or not it's going to deliver the savings. The Business Transformation Board, Leader, when is that going to be formed? What's the timetable on that?
Business Transformation Board, members recall the full council report, will be a function of CMT, and the members will consider the membership of a steering group through I understand through the ad hoc subcommittee on the 6th of February, and a report's being prepared for members to do that.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I ask again how the staff will be involved in this? Staff trade unions.
There's a number of elements to that. Initially, in terms of the first tier, I understand that trade unions will be involved in any matching for any post throughout the council, and that's part of the policy that we have. In terms of communication with staff more broadly, the service reviews and any reductions in management that arrive out of those processes, the staff are involved not only in the review, but also in the challenge panels and in the consultation as part of the options that are delivered. But the intent is through the Business Transformation Board and the steering group with members to get a regular communication, perhaps on a monthly basis, once it's up and established in the next month, out to staff, and also to use the staff forums to engage with staff around specific interests. And that worked well in the development of the reshape proposals particularly, and that drove a lot of the recommendations that came forward to members as well. So we want to build on that.
Thank you. We can move on to the capital investment strategy, which is page 20. This is the South of Scotland Next Generation Access broadband. Any questions on that? Ivor?
Is this here just for information? Because I thought we'd agreed. You know, is it just to give a fullest picture of this is included within the budget coming forward next year? Because there's reference here that the funding allocation will be reviewed, page 21, just before the figures, after the process is completed in August 2013. Well, I take it we've already agreed that we're spending this money, and this is just giving us the full picture that there's 6 million to be spent in the capital this year.
Right. This is £12.6 million indicative figure that we're talking about, is it? Yeah.
Well, it shows that 2014-15, according to the figures here, we've spent 4.2. There's 6 in 2015-16 and 2.4 in 16-17. Is this just here because take it that we've, or have we not given the money over yet for the 4.2? And is it just here to report that this is what we're doing?
The members did take the decision to fund that, and that was part of the national contract. However, it lay within an indicative element of the capital budget because we had not brought forward a formal capital budget. So it's the formalisation of the previous decision into a formal budget over that period. So really it's regularising the decision the members took because we hadn't agreed the formal budget moving forward at that point. So it's here for information, but also members are taking a decision on the budget, but there would be consequences to reversing that decision. But it's really just to regularise the situation now that we're bringing the two processes together.
Alistair?
Thanks very much indeed, Leader. My question, sir, pertains to it's the second paragraph under the project funding requirements on page 21, Leader. We're talking about the Council, and commendably so, let me make that abundantly clear. Council funding of £12.6 million will allow the coverage to be increased to 85 to 90%. What are we going to do, sir, about the residual rump, for want of a better term, of 10 to 15%? Because if we're serious about the strategic objective, Leader, of preserving the integrity, or more importantly, enhancing the integrity of the more peripheral and rural parts of our region, unless we can crack that nut, it would seem to me that there's a very real danger that these areas will be totally left behind.
So we're currently working with Community Broadband Scotland on the final 5%. So that's an organisation set up by Scottish Government specifically to address that issue. We have conversations ongoing with a number of communities at the moment, and that's something that will be ongoing as we identify communities that will fall out with the national programme.
I think there's two things in this paper, being very cautious. The indications are that we should be hitting 95% without investment. So therefore we are talking about a 5% gap. But I think we've also got to say everybody will get something. The minimum every household should expect is 2 megabytes, which is currently, and I look to Councillor Smith, the speed that we both get in our house in Dumfries, in our estate in Dumfries. So everybody will be guaranteed 2. Working with Community Broadband Scotland, we're looking at the new technologies such as mobile, satellite, or piggybacking on the new Swan system going across the council to provide access to speeds beyond 2. But I think for reassurance, at the end of the programme, every household under the programme will be guaranteed a 2 megabyte as the baseline. So for some, that'll be moving from dial-up to 2 megabytes. The problem is under the contract, and this is why I know it's frustrating for members, under the contract, we can't deal with that bit until we've done the first bit. It relates to the European funding. So we're doing this on the basis that this is the gap we're funding in the market. So we can't deal with the last bit, which would be the 5%, until we've done the full rollout of the 95%. I know it's frustrating, but through Community Scotland, we might jump some of the 5% earlier, but we can't tackle it through the programme until the back end. It's a horrible European law in relation to the European grant, but that's how we're having to do it. But we're not standing still, and certainly we're out there. But I think just to go out and tell everybody, you'll get 2 megabytes. I mean, it's a huge step forward, but for, you know, if I look towards Councillor McGregor, it's a great step forward. But we need to constantly keep working with them that we're actually looking to get more than that for the vast majority of our communities, but at the very least, everyone will get 2.
Alistair, you want back in?
Yes, please, briefly, with your leave, sir. That's helpful and it's reassuring, but can I make the plea, Leader, that, you know, we get that message out unremittingly, as it were, to our communities, particularly more peripheral communities, because there is a certain amount of angst and concern at the moment. Let me say, without embarrassing James, that's you know, we've had previous dealings with him in a Mid-Galloway context, and it's been tremendously helpful, and as I've said, reassuring, Leader. But it would do no harm to continually reinforce the message.
That's fine. Thank you. And just how do we raise awareness to, you know, people that are actually, to communities that's actually got the super fast broadband, and, you know, to, you know, realise what we are trying to achieve as a council?
So we've started to put in place a programme of what we're calling demand stimulation activity, which is really exactly that. So it'll be a series of events, workshops. We'll also look to build on existing council projects that are working with IT. So building on the work and the training in the libraries, for example, but also colleagues in community learning development. We have also worked with OpenReach on a number of events in Castle Douglas and Kirkcudbright, where we've brought up the showcase, where we kind of demonstrate the technology as well. So the plan is we'll be rolling out that activity across the region as and when technology becomes available.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that if you also look, I mean, I'm part of the national board, there's been a big push of Virgin broadband, BT broadband, and also broadband awareness. So we're gearing up the fact that this is becoming available. The real trick is to get people to buy it so that the market sustain it. The other one is that members have already agreed in previous papers that we're upgrading and moving to the National Swan contract. That's now with Vodafone, which there wasn't before as a main lead partner with it. So there's a raft of issues we're exploring there about using the leverage that we've got and we managed to maintain through broadband into our own council contracts on a national level. Those are issues that we're trying to pull together at the same time. So we'll be moving our own computer systems onto a more national platform at the same time broadband comes in. And part of James' job is try and knit that fog between the two together. Before, one of the real drawbacks we had is you would see your primary school with access to high speed, but it wasn't in the community around it. That was a contractual obligation, couldn't allow us to do it. Working on this one, we're looking to break that part of the contract in the new contract. So that could become a solution to some more isolated areas as a primary school. So James will work his way through that. But the key is for us to let you know as elected members when it's coming to your area and to be part of that demand stimulation. It worked really well in Kirkcudbright, really well in Castle Douglas, in fact, beyond expectations in Castle Douglas. And actually, it's just about that engagement at that point. The other thing I think James will tell you, the average age of our engagement is significantly higher. It's not the young people coming to demand at those events. It's actually the older end that are seeing the possibilities, well, yes, for business in particular, and for communication, and also for the isolation issues as well, of being able to use Skype to talk to family. That's actually surprised OpenReach when they've come down, is the engagement with their older population that they're not seeing elsewhere.
Thank you. Move on to Capital Investment Strategy, page 23, which is the property buildings non-schools asset class. Please again, any questions? Ivor? Oh, sorry. Okay. Right, thank you. Move on to page 31, which is the Land Asset Capital Programme. Members? Okay. Page 33, which is the Information Technology Business Systems Capital Investment. No. Okay. Thanks very much. The recommendations was to scrutinise the details of the administration budget proposals, revenue and capital. We've done that. So, okay. Thanks very much. We move on to item 4, which is disposal of land at King Street. This is for homologation. Can we move to the recommendations? Sorry, Alyssa.
Just a minor question, sir. It's in relation to the last bullet point, Leader, paragraph 3.5. We're talking about purchaser providing suitable fencing in the boundary with the car park within 4 months of settlement. I take it that part of the deal, sir, would be that the future upkeep and maintenance of that fencing would be their sole responsibility and would not be mutual in any way, shape or form.
Yes, it would be. Yeah.
Can we agree the recommendations? Thank you. No other business. Thank you.